Hi, I'm Lois Romano of POLITICO, and it's time to turn the table on John Dickerson of CBS. John, there's been a lot of drama in Washington today about the potential government shutdown happening after September. Can you tell us, with Congress going out today, what is your take on that? What's going to happen?
Well, I mean, they're leaving town in a flurry of inactivity. It's sort of poignant that the 40th vote on the Affordable Care Act is coming up in the House. It won't go anywhere. It's the 40th time they've tried to do this. And meanwhile, what's not getting done is the normal business of dealing with a budget. And so for all the hours of work they don't do now, they'll have to do in September. And they've only got till the end of September before the money runs out in funding the government. And even if they can squeak through that crisis, they still then will have to deal with the debt limit. The other crisis we're going to have on the budget front at the end of the fall. So they are not doing the work they need to do to make their fall easier. They're not doing work, and that's going to make the fall harder.
All right, let's talk about Christie and Rand Paul, two arguably top contenders for the 216 Republican nomination. They've been in a brawl all week. Who's walking away with the lead on this?
Well, at first I kind of thought they both, it's almost like they cooked it up in a back room because it serves both of their interests. Christie, who is courting Democrats in his heavily blue state for his gubernatorial run, nevertheless gets to make good with Republicans on the foreign policy issues that he was beating Rand Paul about. Sort of Christie filling the slot of the kind of traditional Republican realist / neoconservative, saying that this strain of isolationism is dangerous, and it allowed him to talk about 9/11, which would sort of wave the flag. And for Rand Paul, it gets him to beat up on Christie for spending, and also for just sort of the neocon interventionism that a lot of libertarians don't like. So that was my first take. But now, as this has rolled on, if Rand Paul wants to, in fact, reach out to new corners of the world, he has to kind of upgrade his approach. And talking to various political strategists, he came out of this looking a little tin, a little shrill. Christie does bombast. That's his channel. That's what he is. So to the extent that he's bombastic, he's just doing what he normally does. But for Rand Paul, if he's going to try and expand and actually move out of the libertarian circles, he needs to kind of not be in these sniping fights. He needs to look a little bit more presidential if, in fact, he wants to run in 16.
Was it the bacon comment that did it for you?
Well, the bacon comment, that one's okay because it gets the Rand Paul name out on late night TV, and that's where, lots of people get their news. But it was some of the other kind of, his other remarks that seemed a little thin-skinned.
Mm-hmm. Tell us what we can expect on your Sunday show.
Well, Senator Schumer will be on. He said that Russia has now stabbed us in the back by allowing Edward Snowden to have asylum there. So he's strong language on that. But then, of course, Schumer was at the center of immigration, which came out of the Senate with a bit of a head of steam and now is completely kaput in terms of the momentum it had. So he'll talk about that and these budget showdowns. And speaking of budget showdowns, Congressman Paul Ryan, chairman of the Budget Committee, can talk about these showdowns. And also, he's kind of taking the lead, or is one of the people taking the lead on comprehensive immigration reform in the House. Very tough sledding there, and so we'll see what his magical formula is for getting that out of the House.
So good guess. That's great. So let me ask you a real soft question here. Do you watch the newsroom?
The problem is, since I live the newsroom, I don't watch the newsroom. It's the one thing in Washington I have no opinion on. So I know I'll be thrown out of the guild, but I don't even know where to begin.
All right, one final question then. What do you make of the Larry Summers, Janet Yellen competition for the Fed?
Well, it's extraordinary, isn't it, the way in which the Fed chairman, which has always been one of those offices, perhaps the preeminent office in Washington, where they are incredibly powerful, but people don't really know about them. I mean, going all the way back to Paul Volcker. They're not celebrities in that kind of empty public way that we're so used to. Now, the Fed job is it's this public bake-off in which not only are the merits of the case discussed, but now there's a huge debate about the gender issue here and whether President Obama, if he picks Larry Summers, will be reinforcing the kind of boys' club at the White House. And so the president's being really given a lot of pressure on that front. And so not only is now this all in public, it's the gender question, which maybe is not central to the job of the Fed chairman, seems to have gotten front and center as well. So it's just another round or another way in which Washington has become ever more public.
All right, John, thank you very much.
Thanks, Lois.